What is going on, everybody? How is everybody doing today? My name is Matt, and welcome here to my MLB slash just baseball in general channel. You may know me from my NBA content or maybe my NFL content as well. This channel is going to be a lot of the similar stuff over there, and we're going to just talk about most things baseball. And we are getting very close to opening day for the 2025 MLB season, and I thought a great video to start off this channel with would be just to give you guys my 2025 season predictions. We're going to go through everybody in the divisions. We're going to talk about the playoffs, all the single awards in each league, as well as 5 guys that I think will be traded this year as well. And if you do like baseball, hey, hit that subscribe button, drop a thumbs up if you guys did enjoy, and let's get into it. And we're going to start off with my divisional predictions for this season. We're going to go from 5-1 in each division, and we're going to start off with the AL East. And the team that I think is going to finish last in the AL East, the Toronto Blue Jays. It was really hard not to put the Blue Jays last in one of the best divisions here in the MLB. They did end up losing Jordan Romano in the offseason as he signed with the Philadelphia Phillies. They were active though. They signed Anthony Santander from their division rival, deferred a lot of money. They picked up Jeff Hoffman, Max Scherzer. But I still think it's going to be really tough for this team looking at this roster to compete this year in the AL East. There is a big thing looming over them this year with Vladimir Guerrero Jr. being a free agent at the end of the year. It looks like he wanted $600 million, and the Blue Jays were not willing to give him that. I don't blame them, but he could end up getting moved this year if the Blue Jays are multiple games under 500 as we get closer to the deadline in the summer. Last year was a disappointing year for the Blue Jays. They went 74-88, which isn't the worst record in the world, and I think they can close that gap a little bit, but I can't see this team being over 500, even if they get a bounce back year from Bo Bichette or Dalton Varsho. I'm not sure how much 40-year-old Max Scherzer is going to help them. Chris Bassett is 36, Kevin Gausman is 34, and George Springer is 35. They don't have the best farm system in the world right now. They also picked up Andres Jimenez in the offseason. It will help out their defense, but he hasn't been a good hitter in a couple years. I think this team is finishing last. Finishing fourth in the AL East, I have the Tampa Bay Rays, who are not even going to be playing at the Trop this year. They weren't too active this offseason, but I feel like more active than usual. They ended up trading away Jeffrey Springs and Jose Siri. They worked on a new extension for Drew Rasmussen, and they are putting a lot of stock into their young core this year, especially with third baseman prospect on the rise, Junior Caminario, finally being a full-time starter for this team after being called up later in the 2024 season. We're finally done from a different era of Rays basketball. Isaac Paredes got traded last year. Randy Arozarena got traded as well. And I do think this lineup can be much improved. I think Brandon Lau can have a bounce back year as he's getting closer and closer to free agency. Same with Josh Lowe. And Christopher Morel should be a lot better than they were last year. And I hope we get to see Chandler Simpson come up soon because he's been electric throughout spring training. He could be one of the fastest players in the MLB if he does get called up to the big leagues. This team will be carried by the rotation at times. Shane McClanahan back fully healthy. Taj Bradley, hopefully he could break out this year. Ron Pepio, the main piece they got back in the Glasnow trade. Zach Littell, Shane Baz, Drew Rasmussen. This is one of the deeper rotations in all of Major League Baseball. And even if they have a bad team on paper, they still get it close to around 500. I would not be surprised if they finished above 500 this year, but I think they're going to finish fourth in the AL East. Finishing third, I do have the Baltimore Orioles. It wasn't too long ago where they went over 100 wins and their young core was breaking out. I feel like Mike Elias, the GM, really didn't make that many big acquisitions this offseason. Yeah, they got Tyler O'Neill, but then they also lost Anthony Santander to the Blue Jays. I'm just worried about the rotation right now. They didn't bring back Corbin Burns. It's Zach Eflin. It's Grayson Rodriguez, who already got hurt in spring training. It's a 41-year-old Charlie Morton, Dean Kramer, and Tomoyuki Shigano, who they picked up from Japan, and he's 35 years old as a rookie. They're getting Felix Bautista back. This is still a great young core with Gunnar, Adley, Jordan Westbrook. Hopefully Jackson Holiday could break out this season. Heston Kershaw is going to be a utility bat for them. Kobe Mayo is in the minors, but will be up very soon. This could be a very good offense this year. I just don't think the pitching rotation is going to hold up. But a team that did improve a ton in the offseason, I think is going to finish second in the AL East. That is the Boston Red Sox. Yeah, the Red Sox are back. They've one of the best farm systems in baseball. They went out and got one of the best starting pitchers on the market in the offseason in Garrett Crochet, and I think there's a chance he could finish very high in the AL Cy Young voting. They also picked up Walker Buehler. They're going to get Lucas Giolito back, and they also signed Alex Bregman very late in free agency. Hopefully we could see Trevor Story healthy. Masataka Yoshida could have a bounce back year, and they got Roman Anthony and Kristen Campbell waiting there in the minor leagues. They didn't have to trade either one of those guys in the Garrett Crochet trade. Jarren Duran broke out last year. Rafael Devers is one of the best bats in baseball. I think they have a good blend between their starting rotation, bullpen, and their bats, and I think they're going to finish second in the AL East, and they are going to get one of the wild card spots for the 2025 playoffs. And I do believe the New York Yankees are going to finish first, even without Juan Soto in the AL East this year. Yeah, they weren't able to give Juan Soto over $700 million, but they allocated that money very nicely after that, picking up Max Fried from the Atlanta Braves, Cody Bellinger from the Chicago Cubs, and Devin Williams from the Milwaukee Brewers. They also took a flyer on Paul Goldschmidt. They're going to get Jason Dominguez up for a full year now. And even with Luis Hill going on the IL, they still have one of the best rotations in baseball baseball with Garrett Cole, Max Fried, Carlos Rodon, Clark Schmidt, and Marcus Stroman. I love the pickup of Fernando Cruz in the offseason. They have one of the best bullpens too, even losing Clay Holmes to the New York Mets. They were in the World Series last year. They won 94 games in the regular season. They're definitely going to feel the loss of Juan Soto, but I still believe this team is going to win a very loaded AL East. I think the Rays, Orioles, Red Sox, and Yankees all have a chance at getting that one spot. Sorry, Blue Jays fans. Let's go over to the AL Central. No surprise who I have coming in at number 5, the Chicago White Sox. This team is way more exciting than it was last year or 2 years ago. They won 41 games last year. I don't know how many they're going to win more than that this year, but they have a way more exciting young core. I'm excited to watch Colson Montgomery be up there. I like the additions after the Garrett Crochet trade to get Braden Montgomery and Kyle Teal. Hopefully they could build up that Luis Robert trade value throughout the course of the year and bring in a nice prospect return at the deadline. Sean Burke looks like he could be a breakout player this year for them in their starting rotation, and I like what we've seen last year from Drew Thorpe, as well as Noah Schultz could be up this year and is one of the best pitching prospects in baseball. They are going to be one of, if not the worst team in the MLB this year. So this isn't a shocker. They're coming in at 5. Coming in at number 4, this was tough. I think it could be any one of these teams remaining in the AL Central, but I went with the Minnesota Twins. Because of some RSN issues, they weren't able to go out and spend in the 2025 offseason. Their starting rotation is still really good with Pablo Lopez, Joe Ryan, Bailey Ober, Simeon Woods-Richardson, and Chris Paddock, but I do believe that there is a chance Pablo Lopez could be moved. They do have a good setup man in Griffin Jax, good closer in Johan Duran, and their lineup is solid as well. I'm excited to see Brooks Lee be a full-time starting second baseman this year. Hopefully Royce Lewis could stay healthy for the first time in his career. Same with Byron Buxton and Carlos Correa, because if this team could stay healthy, they could definitely flirt with 81 to 85 wins this year. I just can't count on this team being healthy, and I do think they're going to make some trades as a seller at the deadline, so I have them coming in at number 4. Coming in at number 3, a little bit of a shocker here. They won the division last year, the Cleveland Guardians. I think there is going to be some regression from this team this year. I just don't love the lineup. So they traded away Josh Naylor in the offseason. They've replaced him with 39-year-old Carlos Santana, still a productive bat at his age, and I love Jose Ramirez. He's one of the most underrated players in baseball. I think you're asking a little bit much out of Kyle Manzardo in his rookie season. Steven Kwan could be a great leadoff bat for them, and I do think Lane Thomas will bounce back after having a terrible second half after getting traded last year. I think there's a little bit of volatility in the starting rotation. Can Tanner Bybee step up as a number 1? Can Ben Lively recreate what he did last year? I think we could see a breakout year from Gavin Williams. And can we see Shane Bieber at any time this year? They still have one of the best bullpens in baseball. They picked up Paul Sewald. I just think this division is getting better and better at the top, and I think they're falling behind a little bit because their unwillingness to spend. I'm going to have coming in at number 2, the Kansas City Royals. Kansas City Royals are still one of the more exciting young teams in MLB just because of Bobby Witt Jr., his full-on breakout season last year to turning into one of the best players in all of baseball. I like the addition of Jonathan India trading away Brady Singer for him in the offseason. I think Vinny P can have a breakout year if he can stay healthy. They still have Salvador Perez in that lineup, and I hope somebody out of MJ Melendez, Kyle Isbell, Michael Garcia, or Michael Massey could step up. And even after trading away Brady Singer, this is still a very good rotation with Reagans, Lugo, and Waka at the top. I do think there could be some volatility with this team. If Bobby Witt goes down, if any one of these starters go down, this team could be a surprising 4 seed in the AL Central. I like the pickup of Carlos Estevez. I'm not sure how many prospects are going to make a name for themselves this year for this team on the big league roster, but who knows? Maybe Jack Caglione just absolutely balls out in the minors and he's up here on the major league roster after the All-Star break. But I do have them missing the playoffs. The only team I have making the playoffs is the division winner, the Detroit Tigers, and I got Tigers fever. They were one of the best stories in all of MLB last year, going on that run at the end of the year, snagging a wild card spot and upsetting the Houston Astros during the wild card round. They didn't get Alex Bregman. I would have loved that for them this offseason, but they picked up Gleyber Torres. I really like their bats from last year, all coming back this year. You got Riley Green, Kerry Carpenter, Cole Keith, Jace Jung hopefully could have a breakout year for this team. There's a good core of young bats, and they no longer have to give Javi Baez 500 plus plate appearances anymore. And this could be a really good rotation, bringing back Jack Flaherty after trading him away to the Dodgers last year, scooping him up in free agency, and they arguably have the best pitcher in baseball, Tariq Skubal, last year's Cy Young winner. I hope we can see Matt Vierling and Parker Meadows, who are going to start off the year on the injured list a little bit. Parker Meadows and Matt Vierling are banged up right now, but if this team can get healthy, they have a very deep core of bats, and they do have a good farm system if they want to make a trade or two. Like I said, I got Tigers fever this year. So let's go over to the AL West, coming in at number 5. Maybe a surprising pick here. I got the Los Angeles Angels. I've always been a big Angels supporter, but it's been really tough to want to watch them succeed when they just fall short of expectations every year. I'm just praying that we're able to see Mike Trout get one more healthy year now that he's moved to right field. I was so excited to watch Zach Neto this year, and unfortunately he's starting off on the injured list, but I think they have a good core of bats in Logan O'Hoppe and Noah Shanuel, and I do think Joe Adell could break out this year as the full-time center fielder. They went out and paid big money for Yusei Kikuchi. We'll see how he works out as a 33-year-old for this team, but the starting rotation still is incredible. great 35-year-old Tyler Anderson, 35-year-old Kyle Hendricks, and they signed 37-year-old Kenley Jansen. I'm not sure if this team can hold up this year, and Anthony Rendon is already hurt. I'm sure we're going to see Christian Moore up, their first-round pick from last year. It's just what the Angels do. Coming in at number 4, I got the Oakland Athletics, the Sacramento Athletics, the Las Vegas Athletics, whatever you want to call them, and this team is definitely on the rise right now. I wish they were still in Oakland because this team would have been so much fun to watch over there, but they have one of the best young cores in terms of bats in the MLB. They just re-signed Lawrence Butler. Brent Rooker has been one of the best hitters in the league over the last 2 years. JJ Bleday had a positive year last year. Hopefully we see something out of the combination of Shea Langoliers and Tyler Soderstrom. And in Jacob Wilson, Zach Geloff, there is a very high range for this team this year in terms of their offense. They picked up Luis Severino in free agency. They traded for Jeffrey Springs. And they've one of the most electric closers in all of baseball in Mason Miller. I'm not sure how much we're going to see of their prospects this year in Nick Kurtz, Colby Thomas, and Mason Bennett, but I do think the A's could be very exciting this year in a minor league ballpark. Coming in here at number 3, I do have a wild card team here in the AL West, since the only wild card team I have currently is the Boston Red Sox. We got the Seattle Mariners. I'd like to put them higher in the division. I just can't trust this offense. This offense was so bad last year, and they didn't spend really any money on it in the offseason. I'm hoping we could see somewhat of a bounce back year from Julio Rodriguez, but can we trust Luke Raley and Randy Arozarena and Mitch Haniger and JP Crawford? I can't confidently say we will, but the reason why they're here as a wild card team and the 3 spot in the AL West, the starting rotation: Logan Gilbert, Luis Castillo, George Kirby, Bryce Miller, and Brian Wu. It is the best rotation in the MLB. I think Andres Munoz is going to be one of the best closers this year, and they have an exciting group of prospects that could be up here in 2025, and Harry Ford, maybe Colt Emerson, maybe Cole Young. We'll see if Jerry Dipoto wants to add a bat at any point this year. I wouldn't be surprised if they have a bottom 5 offense and a top 3 rotation, but will that be enough to get them a wild card spot? I think so. And here's a volatile team in 2025. The Texas Rangers, another wild card spot for them. They're coming in at the 2 spot in the AL West. This team is a little bit on the older side, but they have a great young core as well. Can they stay healthy? They won that World Series back in 2023. They didn't make the playoffs in 2024, but if we can get Marcus Semien and Corey Seager healthy at the top, you add in a potential breakout year from Wyatt Langford. You got Evan Carter, 22 years old, Adolis Garcia, Josh Jung. They traded for Jake Berger. This is a very good offense, but this rotation could be so good if Jacob deGrom can look like a shell of his former, and this rotation could be so good if Jacob deGrom can stay healthy this year and look like 80% of the past Jacob deGrom. They still have Nathan Eovaldi they re-signed in the offseason, John Gray, Tyler Mahle fully healthy. I like Cody Bradford. The bullpen can be hit or miss, but I think this offense is going to be great. They do also have Kumar Rocker and Jack Leiter waiting in the wings that could help out this rotation if injuries do happen. And I do think the Rangers are getting a wild card spot. But even though they lost Justin Verlander, Alex Bregman, and Kyle Tucker this offseason, I still think the Houston Astros are the best team in the AL West, because even after parting with those guys, they still have a great lineup with Jose Altuve at the top. Isaac Paredes, who they acquired in that Kyle Tucker trade, I think is going to go off this year with the Crawford boxes. You got Yordan Alvarez, one of the best pure hitters in the 3 spot, and Christian Walker protecting him in the 4 spot. Yanier Diaz is one of the most underrated catchers in the league, and they still have a good rotation. It's not the best, but I'm very high on Hunter Brown this year as a full-on breakout year for the 26-year-old, and you got a 1 in Framber Valdez. Ronel Blanco was a great rookie last year, and we'll see what Spencer Arangetti and Hayden Wesneski can do. I expect Josh Hader and Brian Abreu to bounce back. Could we maybe see Bryce Matthews or Cam Smith this year to just give reinforcements to this lineup? It's definitely possible. I'm not counting the Astros out. I can't. All right, let's go over to the NL East. It's an easy 5 pick, the Miami Marlins, a team that is currently rebuilding. This team was rough to watch last year. They're going to be rough to watch again this year, but that is fine. They're trying to develop this young core. I do think we could see productive years out of Xavier Edwards, Otto Lopez, and Matt Murph, so I like that pickup for them in the offseason. Hopefully Sandy Alcantara can look healthy this year. But if he looks healthy, are they going to just trade him? I think Max Meyer can have a productive year for this team. Maybe we can get something out of Ryan Weathers or Edward Cabrera. But like I said, it's about the future. I think Augustin Ramirez from the Jazz Chisholm trade can have a big year for them. They just want to see big years out of the prospects like Dylan Head, Robbie Snelling, Thomas White, Starling Caba, Noble Meyer. I would be shocked if this team won 65 games. Coming in at number 4, I have the Washington Nationals. They could be a sneaky competitive team this year. They have such a fun young core at the top of their lineup with CJ Abrams, if he's not gambling, Dylan Cruz, and James Wood. That is such an electric 2 and 3 in your lineup. They traded for Nathaniel Lowe this offseason. They got Josh Bell. Luis Garcia is a productive second baseman. The big question mark is the starting rotation. Can Mackenzie Gore be consistent over the full course of this season? He was up and down last year. Mike Soroka looks very good in spring training. They got Trevor Williams over reliable. And Kyle Finnegan is a productive closer as well. But I just worry about this starting rotation over the course of the year. I think they're going to have no issue hitting, but they don't really have a lot of in-house guys in the minor leagues that can step up and help them. Maybe it's Cade Cavalli if he can come through. He was once a top prospect. but a lot of their top pitching prospects like Travis Sorka or Harleen Susana are probably a couple years away. Coming in at number 3, this is very tough because all 3 of these teams are very good, and I think all 3 of them are making the wild card. I do have the Philadelphia Phillies. So I think the Phillies had a productive offseason. They did lose Jeff Hoffman, but they brought in Jordan Romano, and I love the trade of Jesus Fajardo. It's just this team is getting a little bit older. They do have one of the oldest lineups in the MLB. Trey Turner's 31, Bryce Harper's 32, Schwarber's 32, Castellanos is 33, Kepler's 32, and JT Realmuto is 34. Alec Boehm got off to a great start last year, struggled in the second half. Bryson Stott can't really consistently hit, neither could Brandon Marsh or Johan Rojas. They do have arguably the best pitching staff in the MLB. It's the Seattle Mariners in the AL, it's the Dodgers, and it's the Philadelphia Phillies. They maybe have the best pitcher in the MLB that you want in the playoffs in Zach Wheeler, Christopher Sanchez, Aaron Nola, Ranger Suarez, and Jesus Fajardo. That is a nasty starting rotation. And their bullpen was electric last year with the Ryan Kirkring and Matt Strom. They also still have Jose Alvarado. It looks like Jordan Romano is going to be the closer to start off the year. And as I mentioned, they have one of the best rotations. They may also get Andrew Painter coming up this year, one of the best pitching prospects. Aiden Miller could be up this year. Same with Justin Crawford. I do think this is somewhat of a last dance for this Phillies lineup. I think they're going to finish 3rd, but I think they're going to be a playoff team. Because coming in at number 2 is a team that spent almost $1 billion this offseason, the New York Mets. The New York Mets beat the Phillies in the playoffs last year. They did finish as a wild card spot, but they landed Juan Soto, one of the biggest MLB free agents of all time. Having him, Lindor, and bringing back Pete Alonso at the top is a great 1-2-3. Mark Vientos broke out last year. How is he going to look this year? Could we get Francisco Alvarez to break out? How is this rotation going to look? Because Sean Manaea and Frankie Montas are already on the IL, but they're getting Kodai Senga back. They signed Clay Holmes. They still have one of the best closers in baseball in Edwin Diaz. They don't have the best farm system in the world, but they have a couple guys that are MLB ready, like Brandon Sproat, Jet Williams, Luis Angel Acuna is probably going to make the major league roster. Brett Beatty's been very good in spring training. How is he going to look this year for this team? I do think they have enough depth to finish as the 2 spot in the NL East. I would not be surprised if they finished 3 though. But at number 1, it's a team that was probably going to win this division last year, but they had so many injuries and they still made the playoffs. The Atlanta Braves. They weren't too active this offseason. They did lose Max Fried to the New York Yankees. They brought in Jerks and Profar from the Padres, but this is still such an elite lineup with or without Ronald Acuna Jr. Austin Riley, Matt Olson, Marcelo Ozuna, and Michael Harris is as good as it gets. It is unfortunate that Sean Murphy is starting the year on the IL, but I do think they're going to still have a good rotation, even without Max Fried. They have last year's Cy Young winner Chris Sale at the top. I think we're going to see a breakout year from Spencer Swellenbach. He had a great second half in 2024. They're able to produce good bullpens every year. I think they can also finish 3rd in the NL East. All 3 of these teams, I think, could shuffle between the Mets, the Phillies, and the Braves. I'm just going with Braves, Mets, Phillies right now. I think all 3 of them are making the playoffs either as the division winner or the 2 wildcard spot. Let's go on to the NL Central. I went to this ballpark for the first time in August of last year, and I will say, it's maybe my favorite ballpark out there, the Pittsburgh Pirates, but this team just doesn't spend. This lineup is just very gross to look at right now with Tommy Pham at the top. You got Brian Reynolds and O'Neal Cruz at the 2 and 3 spot. That is encouraging, but then it's a 38-year-old Andrew McCutchen, a failed top prospect in Joey Bart, Derek Hall, Nick Gonzalez, Brian Hayes, and Isaiah Connor Falefa. That's just not going to get it done. And it's a shame too, because they have such an electric 1, 2, and 3 in the rotation with young pitchers and Paul Skeens, who could win NL Cy Young this year, Mitch Keller, and Jared Jones. I like the pickup of Andrew Heaney. The bullpen looks a little bit improved as well, but I'm just kind of disappointed they didn't add any bat this offseason. We're probably going to see Bubba Chandler up in this rotation. He's going to get even more electric. Thomas Harrington could be up as well. But can Tamar Johnson, Nick York, Nick Gonzalez, these young middle infielders they have saved their team? I think that's asking a lot out of them. I think they're finishing 5th in the NL Central. This team used to be the Yankees of the NL. Not anymore. I got the St. Louis Cardinals finishing number 4. They also didn't really spend in the offseason either. They lost Paul Goldschmidt to the New York Yankees, which I think is fine after the season he had last year. They were unable to trade Nolan Arenado, which is kind of unfortunate. I wanted to see Jordan Walker go back to his original position at 3rd base. And while I do think we could see big years out of Mason Wynn and Jordan Walker, I don't think this team is going to finish with a top 3 spot in the NL Central. The rotation is not very good to look at on paper with Sonny Gray, Miles Michaelis, and Steven Matz. This is a good bullpen. They didn't trade Ryan Helsley in the offseason. Maybe they're going to extend him. Either way, though, I can't see this team making the playoffs this year. Now, here's where this gets very tough because these teams can finish 3, 2, or 1 in any type of order here. But at number 3, a little bit of a shocker, the Milwaukee Brewers. Now, it does feel like the Milwaukee Brewers are the Rays of the NL because they just built through the farm system. They're very smart. They can improve on minor trades. And this team does have a fun lineup with Jackson Churio, Christian Yelich if he could stay healthy, William Contreras, and I think a big breakout year for Garrett Mitchell if he could stay healthy. They did trade away Devin Williams in the offseason. Frankie Montas left to the Mets. I think we could also see a big breakout year for Tobias Myers, but I worry about this rotation with or without Brandon Woodruff. And if some guys regress, I think this team may see its lack of spending catch up to them, because this team, if it could stay healthy, could be one of the more electric teams in the MLB. I have the Cincinnati Reds finishing second. I'm so excited to watch Hunter Green, Brady Singer, Nick Lodolo in that starting rotation this year. I think their bullpen is much improved, and if Matt McClain can stay healthy with Ellie De La Cruz up there, they traded for Gavin Lux. Maybe we're going to see Chase Burns this year, maybe Rhett Lauder if he can get healthy later in the year, and in a deep farm system of Edwin Arroyo, Chase Petty, Cam Collier. There is a chance this team could improve. I think it's going to be neck and neck between the Brewers and the Reds. But coming in at number 1 in the NL Central, I got the Chicago Cubs. I do wish the Cubs picked up one more starter in the offseason. I think Shota Imanaga and Justin Steele is a great 1-2 punch. I wish they had a better number 3rd. They got basically a good closer in Ryan Presley for nothing this offseason. I just really like this lineup. I think we're going to see a bounce back year in Dansby Swanson. They traded for one of the best bats in Kyle Tucker. They're going to steal a ton of bags this year, and I think they're going to win the NL Central for the first time in a few years. Now let's go over to the NL West, a loaded division as well. Coming in at number 5, we got the Colorado Rockies. This team is still in its rebuild phase. They're definitely feeling the effects after paying Chris Bryant all that money, but we're just going to hopefully see the development in Ezekiel Tovar, Jordan Beck, maybe a bounce back year from Nolan Jones, and them just trying to find any guys that could pitch in this rotation. They're going to give up a lot of runs. They're going to hit a lot of homers. Same old story with the Rockies, but they're building up that farm system. I want to see Chase Dollander up this year. I want to see Charlie Condon rake in the minors, and this team could be heading in the right direction. So this is where it gets tough. Between 4 good remaining teams in the NL West, one of them has to finish 4th, and I have the LA Dodgers. No, I'm just kidding. I do have the San Diego Padres, a team that didn't really add too much in the offseason. They lost Jurickson Profar to the Atlanta Braves, Ha-Seong Kim to the Tampa Bay Rays, Tanner Scott to the Dodgers, and their only notable addition was Nick Pivetta from the Boston Red Sox. They basically had to pay him nothing this year to convince him to come over and defer the money to later years. It's still a good bullpen though, with Robert Suarez as the closer, Jason Adam and Jeremiah Strutter as the high leverage guys. Can this offense stay healthy, and can some of these guys return to their peak forms? Luis Arias, Fernando Tatis, Jackson Merrill, Manny Machado is a fantastic top 4. Can Xander Bogaerts step up this year? Can they get some type of OMG magic from Jose Iglesias like he did with the Mets last year? Jason Hayward's in that lineup. They have one of the worst farm systems in the NL. In terms of MLB ready prospects, I think this team is going to finish 4th. I guess a little bit of a shocker, I have the San Francisco Giants finishing 3rd. This team went out and added this offseason. They did lose Michael Conforto and Blake Snell to the Dodgers, but they picked up Willie Adames. I'm excited to see Jung-Hoo Lee healthy this year in center. They had a couple breakouts last year in Elliot Ramos and Tyler Fitzgerald. I like this rotation, even with a 42-year-old Justin Verlander. I know Camilo Duvall regressed last year, but Ryan Walker looks like a great replacement as the top closer. We see Carson Wisenhunt up this year, maybe Bryce Eldridge as well, and I think the Giants are going to finish as the 3 seed. And this is one of the best teams in baseball I have finishing at number 2. It's just they have one of the greatest teams of all time also in their division. So coming in at number 2, I do think they're getting a wild card spot, the Arizona Diamondbacks. Man, this team is so good. It's kind of a shame they didn't make the playoffs last year. Hopefully Corbin Carroll can go back to what he was a few years ago. Ketel Marte, they picked up Josh Naylor. This is a very fun lineup, even without Christian Walker. But this rotation could also end up as one of the best in the MLB this year, with Corbin Burns, who they picked up in the offseason at the top. No RSN issues over there. Zach Gallen, Merrill Kelly, Eduardo Rodriguez, Brandon Pfaadt. Maybe they get Jordan Montgomery to come back to something. It's a good bullpen, and maybe we see Jordan Waller called up this year as well. I think the Diamondbacks could finish number 2 in the NL West and get a wild card spot. But to no surprise here, coming in as the NL West division leader, I do have the LA Dodgers. I think they're going to get the most regular season wins in all of MLB this year. I mean, you're talking about a team that won 98 games last year, that won the World Series, and they added Michael Conforto, Ha-Seong Kim, Blake Snell, Roki Sasaki, Tanner Scott, Kirby Yates. They're also going to get Tyler Glasnow back healthy. Shohei Ohtani is going to pitch, and pieces around them like Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, Teoscar Hernandez, Max Muncy, Will Smith. This team is insane. I do think they can win over 110 games this year, and they're going to win the NL West. Let's get into the playoffs. So the teams that I think are going to get the buys, the top 2 seeds here in the AL, the Yankees and the Astros. First matchup, the Tigers and the Mariners. I'm going to go with the Tigers here. I think they're going to be a very good team this year, win the AL Central. They got a good mix of hitting and pitching, and I think they're going to advance to the divisional round. And then you have the Rangers and the Red Sox. This is going to be so entertaining if these teams are healthy, but I do think the Red Sox are just going to get better and better as the year goes along. They're going to add some top prospects, and they also have a deep farm system. If they want to add another pitcher as well, I think they're going to advance, which is going to lead the Yankees versus the Red Sox in the divisional series. I'm going with the Red Sox here. I think this is going to be one of the best lineups in the MLB this year. I think Garrett Crochet is going to be one of the top pitchers. You add to that, and throughout the bullpen at the trade deadline, They're going to go back to the ALCS for the first time in a few years. And then you have the Astros and the Tigers. I'm going to have what happened last year happen this year. The Tigers are going to beat the Astros and go to the ALCS, which is going to set up Alex Cora versus AJ Hinch, two former Astros coaches, and I do have the Red Sox going to the World Series this year. I'm high on the Sox. And let's go to the NL. I think the Dodgers and the Braves are going to get the buys here. So that means we have the Phillies and the Diamondbacks, a rematch from that 2023 NLCS. I do think the Phillies avenged that series and they beat the Diamondbacks here. Their rotation is too good. And then you have the Mets and the Cubs, which would be a very fun series. I expect the Mets to end this year at the deadline. I don't think the Cubs rotation is deep enough to go far in a playoff run. I think they lose here in the wild card round to the Mets. So that's going to set up the Dodgers versus the Mets, a rematch from last year's NLCS. I got the Dodgers advancing. The Dodgers are just way too deep, have way too much talent at the top, and the Mets are going to be sent home in round number 2. And then we have the Phillies and the Braves in the divisional series. Once again, the Phillies have had the Braves number over the last few years, and I think the same thing happens this year. The rotation is too good, and like I said, it's like a last dance with this older lineup, but it's going to end there as they're going to go up against the Dodgers in the NLCS. And the Dodgers, man, they're just too well balanced. Their rotation, their bullpen, their bats, their farm system, I think they're going back to the World Series. So we have the Dodgers versus the Red Sox, a rematch from 2018. And the team that lost in 2018 is going to win in 2025. I do have the Dodgers beating the Red Sox. I know it's a chalky pick, but this team is just too good. I actually think it could be one of the best teams of all time. All right, so let's get into the awards here. I do think Shohei Ohtani is going to win MVP. If he pitches 50 innings this year, that is going to help out to his MVP case even more. He can hit 50 home runs again, steal 50 bags. It's just going to happen as long as he's pitching and hitting, because he won it last year and he didn't even pitch. In the AL, I have Bobby Witt winning MVP. He finished runner-up to Aaron Judge last year. I think Aaron Judge could definitely win it again this year, but Bobby Witt was a 9-win player. He played 161 games, over 200 hits, a 332 batting average, 30 stolen bases, 30 home runs. He's going to get even better in his age 25 season. If he can stay healthy, I think the NL Rookie of the Year is going to win NL Cy Young. I got Paul Skeens winning that award this year. He started 23 games last year for the Pirates, 1.96 ERA, 2.44 FIP, and 133 innings. The innings are going to go up, the strikeouts are going to go up, and I'm not confident to say that the ERA is going to go up. I think he wins Cy Young as a 23-year-old. And I have them go into the World Series. I mentioned that I think he's going to be one of the best pitchers. He was traded in the offseason. Garrett Crochet is going to win the AL Cy Young Award. He appeared in 32 games last year for the White Sox, 146 innings because they were keeping track of his innings later in the year, but he's just an electric pitcher, can throw in the triple digits, has great off speed, and I think he's going to be the workhorse for this Red Sox rotation. NL Rookie of the Year winner, I'm going to go with Dylan Cruz, a former top 3 pick here, debuting late last year for the Washington Nationals, going to be a full-time corner outfielder for them this year. I think he could steal 40 plus bags in his rookie season. He's going to get on base. He's going to hit for contact, and I think he could take home that award. He's going to be going up against some very good competition over there. And in the AL, I got a pitcher. I got Jackson Jobe, who is not making the MLB roster for this team, but is one of the best prospects in baseball. He is the best pitching prospect in baseball. I think he has lapped Andrew Painter. He may get called up after the service time can be manipulated, and I think he's going to have plenty of innings to win the AL Rookie of the Year award. NL Manager of the Year, I'm going to go with Craig Counsell with the Chicago Cubs, since they're going to win the division, and I have the AL Manager of the Year being Alex Cora. They're going to get back to relevancy over there in the AL. And then, like I mentioned before, I got 5 players that I think will be traded. The first one is going to be Dylan Cease of the San Diego Padres. I had them finishing 4th in the NL West, and I do think they could trade Cease at this year's deadline for still a good haul because pitchers come at a premium. We saw what even Yusei Kikuchi went for last year, and Cease is still going to be a free agent this year, like Kikuchi last year. I wanted to go with the Toronto Blue Jay. You could bring up Bo Bichette. You could bring up Vladdy, but I don't think they're going to trade him. I got Kevin Gausman here. Gausman has 2 years left on his deal, around $23 million. He got off to a very rough start last year, but finished strong in the 2024 season. I think he can go back to what he was in 2022 and 2023 for the Blue Jays, have a low 3s in the ERA department, and I think they can get a good return for him at the deadline. I think the Pittsburgh Pirates are going to be bad this year, and I think this is finally the year they trade away Brian Reynolds. This team is cheap, and they continue to get cheaper. Brian Reynolds has made the most money in their franchise history on that extension. He's due over $15 million for the next 5 seasons, and then $20 million in 2031. He's had over a 790 OPS for the last 4 years, over a 110 OPS plus. I think they'd get a good return for him since he's under contract on a nice one going forward. He just needs to improve the defense. He wasn't traded last year at the deadline because he was having a very down year and an injured one. He wasn't traded in the offseason, but I do think we see Luis Robert traded this year at the deadline. Robert was a 1.5 win player last year, but he was a 5-win player in 2023 where he had an 857 OPS. He hit 38 home runs and stole 20 bases. If he can even come close to that in the first half this year, he's going to be as good as gone. And the last player that I think is going to be traded, another team that's going to finish very low in their divisional standings. It's a theme here. It's Sandy Alcantara of the Miami Marlins. Giants. I mean, they have traded just everybody over the last few years, and Sandy is going to be a free agent at the end of the 2027 season. That has a lot of value that he's making $17 million this year, 17 next year, $21 million in 2027. And if he can go back to the similar form to when he was an 8-win player in 2022 and won Cy Young and throwing over 220 innings, he can go for a haul at this year's deadline. So yeah, I got Dylan Cease, Kevin Gausman, Brian Reynolds, Luis Robert, and Sandy Alcantara, 3 pitchers and 2 hitters. And that is going to be for me. I hope you guys did enjoy. If you did, I would appreciate you dropping a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button if you enjoyed the content. Going to be stuff like this all MLB season long. Let me know what you guys think of my predictions. Let me know your predictions down below, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.